Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Things Episcopal, where we talk about anything and everything related to the Episcopal Church. This podcast was designed with young people in mind and as a space to learn more about the Christian faith with the Episcopal lens. So in traditionally Episcopalian greeting fashion, the Lord be with you. Hey friends, welcome back for another episode of All Things Episcopal. And today we're actually going to do another segment of Holy and Human, stories from young adults in the pews. I have two young adults with me who are actually college students and they attend Kansas State University. We have Kelsey Phillips and Alex Buck here to talk to us about their experience with the church and everything and anything that relates to being part of the Episcopal Church and their experience with it. So welcome to All Things Episcopal, Alex and Kelsey. So Alex, we're going to start off with you, and I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found yourself in the Episcopal Church, and go.
All right. So my name is Alex Buck. I am a senior here at K-State studying architectural engineering. And then, so I was actually born into the Episcopal Church, baptized as an infant, and then grew up in the church, grew up in Kansas City at St. Andrews. And then joined K-State Canterbury when I started college with the help of Brandon Kermer, who I knew from St. Andrews, and just had a great time in the Episcopal Church and really enjoyed being there.
Kelsey?
So I'm Kelsey. I'm a junior here at K-State, and I'm studying integrative human sciences, which is hopefully pre-counseling therapy of some sort. I am also a cradle Episcopalian, which is super awesome. So I was baptized as an infant as well and just grew up in the church. I initially went to Trinity Episcopal Church in Iowa City, and then when I was about 10, we moved to Kansas, and then I went to St. Thomas and just did all things youth programming at St. Thomas, and then stayed involved up through college. So it's been good.
I love it. And also I feel like I'm kind of in the presence of Episcopal richness right now, because it's rare that you meet young adults and college students that are cradle Episcopalian that are still part of the church. So I feel extra humbled to be in your presence, to be honest, because I grew up unchurched, as some of you might know. So I'm learning from you just as much as hopefully you learn from me. Okay, so you both were more or less born into the Episcopal Church, and also for our listeners, I want this to be noted that while both of these two students are Canterbury participants, they're both peer ministers. And Alex grew up in the Diocese of West Missouri, and Kelsey grew up in the Diocese of Kansas. So this is a true representation of Midwest Episcopal experience. Yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. The other thing that I want to know about is what drew you to stay involved in the church, or what made you come back, if you ever had a time where you're like, yeah, this really isn't for me. But it doesn't really sound like you took a pause. Yeah, Alex, let's start with you.
So I think that it was really easy for me to stay in as a youth and as a child coming up through the church. A great youth programming when I was through high school, middle school. I would say the main inflection point was when I started college and not really sure where things were going to go. And then getting introduced to Canterbury was really great, and just having a place that was very how should I say, just calm and lots of kind people around was one of the things that really helped me to stay. And also just having a place that was very open and accepting. It's really great.
Kelsey, what about you?
I think kind of to echo what Alex said, I mean, the youth programming that I experienced was incredible. I think that was the big hook for me. I was kind of involved in everything I could possibly be doing in terms of youth programming. But I think that the more I stuck with it, the more I was taught how my faith could be a grounding point for me and truly a central rock in my life. And I would also say that a little bit post-COVID when I was still in high school, but especially coming into college, there were some points where I was like, not really sure like exactly where I want to be, that sort of thing. Or I'd take like pauses where I wouldn't see like the church community as often. And I would always just hit a point where I was like, I need to go back and like reground myself. And it hasn't failed yet. So, I mean, that's just kind of where I operate from.
No, I so appreciate that you said that, Kelsey, about the church being a place of grounding. And you kind of touched on this as well, Alex, that I think more and more people are looking for a sense of grounding in life because life is just chaotic and it's hard being human. And to know that there is a place that provides a steadiness, a calm, like almost a certainty, specifically within our liturgy of Holy Eucharist. It's the same liturgy every week. It's just, the sermon changes depending on what's happening in the world and the readings change, but the words that are said in our Eucharistic prayer or the collect for purity, it opens up almost every Holy Eucharist, which I think is beautiful. I also want to talk about what it means to identify as an Episcopalian specifically. Alex, why don't we start with you first?
Yeah. So to me, being Episcopalian has like, I didn't always know what it meant. For a while, it's just like, it's where I go to church. But the more I've realized, it's like sticking true to tradition while accepting change in the right way. So, you mentioned the liturgy. We've, had that same liturgy for so long, but then we're also so open to accepting all sorts and conditions of people and, just opening our doors to change and thinking critically about what is the best way for us to carry on God's work in the world.
So good. So good. And so true. All right, Kelsey.
Yeah, that was great, Alex. I don't know that I can top that kind of definition or identification. What I kind of think when I think what it means to be an Episcopalian, well, when I was younger, I definitely thought I go to the church with the hardest name to pronounce ever. Like nobody can ever say it when I tell them what it is. But as I got older, I think the more I reflected even on my childhood, the Episcopal experience is such like an immersive experience. It's almost like, I think it's supposed to be like this, but it's a way of life in a sense because it is so far extending. As Alex mentioned, it like is a place for you to like ground yourself in tradition, but also the church like extends out into the real world. And I think I saw that a lot through youth programming, doing social justice work. It really kind of like opened my eyes so that I could see that, not only was the church somewhere that I could find community and I could find love, but it was also a place where the whole world was being invited to that. And I think living out that kind of mission is what being an Episcopalian means.
Again, so good, so good. And that's a great segue into, like, are there any Episcopal beliefs or practices that really resonate with you? Kelsey, you mentioned that being in the church, specifically the Episcopal Church, is a grounding point for you. Are there specific beliefs or practices that really speak to you as an Episcopalian from your Episcopal formation?
Let's see. I think that a big grounding point for me has definitely been using Compline as kind of a form of prayer. I mean, that's like kind of every youth and young adult's go-to favorite thing, but it really is how we, concluded and sometimes even opened, but concluded every, event correlated with the church that I went to throughout my formative years. And so it's become a thing where when I say the words of Compline, especially with other people in the room, like there's just like a thick air of peace. So that definitely really resonates with me. And another thing I was thinking about was on the Episcopal website, when you go and you look at it, they have like a little mission statement, and it's to restore all people to unity with God and each other in Christ. And I really, really like the unity part of it. That definitely resonates with me because I feel like that's what the church is all about. It's togetherness, no matter who you are, where you come from.
Yeah. I'm going to say one thing and then I want to hear from Alex real quick. I love that you brought that up because that is actually the answer to what is the mission of the church. It is to reconcile all persons and creation back to God. I mean, that's a Cliff Notes version of it, but what you said is more actually like what our catechism says about the mission of the church, like what the point is. So I love that you said that. All right, Alex, what about you?
So I was thinking more when I'm going to church, and the one thing that always sticks with me is the procession in. And at my home church, it's like always like super big, and they're playing the big music through the organ. And the thing I always like to do is like look at all the acolytes, and now I like looking back and like see who I can still recognize. Uh, And then the other thing is the music. I love our hymnal. It's just like partly because it's what I grew up hearing, but it's just great music that is rooted in tradition and a lot of text that comes straight from the Bible. And so I feel like that's something that, if I go to church after feeling down for a while and I hear my favorite hymns, I'm like pumped right back up. Like I'm feeling great.
I love that for you. So you mentioned the worship service. What are your favorite parts of the Episcopal worship service or liturgy? And we'll start with Alex and then go to Kelsey.
Part of what I like is what you said earlier with like the repetition of it, where we start the same way, we go through the same things. I'm a very like step by step person. I like lists. I like systematic ways of doing things. So I really love that our services go in such a way like that.
Kelsey, what about you?
I think that I agree with Alex. I think the repetition is 100% grounding. I think there's two parts of the service that really have kind of always stuck out to me ever since I was young, and I still really appreciate them. And the first one is the reading of the gospel. I mean, who doesn't love the gospel? It's the freaking gospel. Um, but I really appreciate how it is like the priest processes out into the congregation and reads it. Kind of like they're being surrounded by everyone. I really like that image. And then I also like reading the Psalms together. I did it responsively a lot at my first church, and now it's kind of like in unity at St. Thomas. And I just really like that idea of reading with other people. It kind of makes me feel like uplifted and like I have people like with me, like they've got me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you touched on that because it all depends on your context. So liturgy is more or less prescribed, and how it's presented to a congregation can be different depending on the context that you're in. So you said that your first parish, they read it responsively, and the parish that you've been a part of, St. Thomas, reads it together in unity, but the cathedral that I work at, the choir sings it. So it's different. And so I love that our liturgy can be universal to all contexts, but how it's carried out fits the context. So it's almost like unity within uniformity. I think I'm thinking that correctly or communicating that correctly. I also want to know, so we talked about your favorite parts. Is there a moment during a service that feels especially meaningful to you? And we'll start with Alex.
For me, it's this one sermon on Christmas Eve when I don't remember how old I was, but maybe like 10 or 11. And I felt like it was one of the first times that I like really started to feel God's presence in my life. Because before that, I like had my own idea of what God was, and I had gone to children's chapel and started going to youth group, but I don't know if I really understood it until then. It was when the priest was giving a sermon and he was talking about his Christmas Eve with his family in Springfield, and just talking about how his whole family was together and everything that they would do on Christmas Eve. And I don't really know what it was about it, but that was like the first time that I like truly felt content in church and really felt happy with myself and with being there.
So good. Because that's what it's about, is being in a space where you can be your most authentic self and give your heart over to that. Oh, I love that you said that. Kelsey?
I don't know that I have one specific memory like Alex does, but I think that no matter like where I'm attending church, like I've attended Episcopal churches in several different states, no matter where I am, whether I'm at camp and we're doing church there, that sort of thing. The music is always the part that like really resounds the most to me. It's like where I can feel God the most. Mm. I think that that's interesting because the Episcopal Church has so many different types of music that it presents as part of its service, but he's always there in it. I think particularly our big mega Eucharist about High Y during summer camp for the diocese, the music there is incredible because it's youth voices and it's songs that everybody knows. And it's like nobody cares if you can sing or not. Everybody's singing loudly. I think that is like just true joy and love in that moment.
Shout out to Mother Karen for organizing a mega camp in the Diocese of Kansas. Yeah, she does an amazing job with thinking about liturgy, and I can definitely echo the music at camp. It's so good. So good. Okay, so you all have talked about your experiences with your parish and growing up in the church. One of the things that oftentimes is missed is the young adult voice in the parish. I'm curious about y'all's experience. Do you feel like your voice is heard or valued in your parish and, by larger extent, the diocese that your church belongs to? And we'll start with Alex.
So I would say yes and no. So one of the places that I feel could do better are, for example, my home parish. Like, it's not necessarily to the fault of them, but there aren't a lot of young adults in that parish, and so just because of that, it's more difficult to be heard there. And it's not like they're doing something specifically to, silence us, but there just aren't that many of us, so it's very difficult to voice opinions, especially if you're just a, regular Sunday attendee. However, I would say at the Canterbury House, a very specific example of our voices being heard is you, Claire, because we were a little worried about this year that me, Kelsey, and Mason wouldn't be able to get everything done, and very specifically asked for a campus missioner, and then here you are to help us. So that was
being helpful to you all.
Oh yeah.
And I love my time with you all. It's deeply meaningful. So I'm glad that it's mutually inspiring. Kelsey, what about you?
Yeah, I think I share a little bit of the numbers game issue with Alex. I have definitely witnessed that with other parishes in the Kansas and Missouri areas with voices. It's hard when you don't have a lot of people to pack a punch to like kind of, make it, known what you guys are thinking, that sort of thing. But I think that I personally had a very blessed experience in that front. I don't know how many people listening are familiar with Kelly and Gardemo, but I did youth programming under them at St. Thomas, also Barbara McCall, and then Everything Possible in the Diocese with Karen. And all of those people are incredible advocates for youth. They constantly ensure that, your voice, your thought is reaching the main stage. So I think that those channels are really, really important. Like Alex was saying, Claire, for us, you are one of those big channels. And I think that those positions are crucial to keep because it seems to be an effective way to kind of bridge the gap, I would say.
I feel so touched that like the presence of having a youth, or not youth, campus commissioner means something to you all, and that I get to be that person. It means a great deal to me. And like I said, I love my time with you all. It brings me so much joy. I do want to follow up with hearing heard in the parish. If there's one thing, and I'm kind of putting y'all on the spot here, if there's one thing that you would recommend to a rector that is specifically looking to engage more with college and young adults, whether it's currently in college or post-college, what would you tell them?
I feel like having a group that's like similar to youth group almost. Like, for example, at my church, there's a Youth in 30s group, which is great. But then, there's a bit of there's a big jump between just out of college and in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of difficult to fit into that group if you're 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it's something that is super easy to do. But if you're able to find some way to have just some sort of weekly group with early to mid 20s folks, I think that would be something that would be very much appreciated.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I would echo what Alex had to say. I would also say that between a pastor or a priest and the young adults, the personal relationships are always incredibly important.
Mm.
I mean, we as college students are looking for mentors in our life. We're kind of at that point where it's really nice to have a guiding hand or somebody who's, maybe has a little bit more life experience than us. I think that's really beneficial. So developing that personal relationship. I also think that in that same vein, college kids are always looking for opportunities for exploration and that sort of thing. So I think that that's a big thing that I get from Canterbury is exploring my faith and like learning about it in an open and like safe environment where I don't feel, that I have to think one certain thing. I have the opportunity to like try out a lot of different things. So I think kind of offering those spaces for like exploration is definitely crucial.
And I think like one of the ways that we can do that, to Alex's point, like through weekly groups, but also like retreats. We kind of touched on this before with you, Kelsey, and you mentioning mega camp. Have you all been involved in any ministry outside of camp, like retreats or Episcopal, like college young adult programs, in this case outside of Canterbury? And what was that like for you all? Or you can talk about Canterbury and how awesome it is. Whichever.
Well, Canterbury is awesome. But I don't know. I haven't been a part of anything specifically young adult. But as a youth, one of my favorite things is we used to go on a skiing retreat. And those are some of my best memories associated with the church because the whole youth group would go out to Colorado and we just stay in like a condo for 2 days and just get to hang out with each other, go skiing, have compline at night, eat meals together, go tubing, just like all the things that youth love to do. So that was always like one of my best memories.
10 out
Yeah, I
of
think
10 do recommend that ski trip. I went as a chaperone. It was pretty great.
I'm jealous. I love skiing.
Kelsey, what about you?
Yeah, I think that retreats are a really, really beneficial tool. They kind of like put you in this like, extra targeted environment for like, a several day period where you're kind of just like only focusing on your faith, which is like really awesome and can help you build some really insane connections. I went to Mikra a bunch as a youth, and I also went to Happening, and then I have now continued to go back and staff those events as a young adult. And I think, initially that was as a youth, it was a great way to like make connections, build my faith. they give me leadership opportunities. Like, I got to grow in so many ways as a young person. And then now going back, 3 of my best friends, we don't go to college together at all, but we all go and staff the events. And that's like a place that I get to go see them again. And they're incredibly, grounding and God-centered relationships. So I really appreciate that time. So I think, definitely the retreats are beneficial.
10 out of 10 recommend that too. So we talked, I'm kind of going back to what you talked about, Kelsey, of a place of grounding. And Alex, you mentioned this of Canterbury in particular feeling like a place of calm, a place of peace. Our world is so noisy, and there's a lot of tension in the world right now. I'm curious, do either of you ever feel tension between your beliefs and what others assume Christians believe?
Yes.
Say more.
There's like this idea, the outside belief of Christians, and even that certain other groups of Christians have, where I don't know how to say this super eloquently. I feel like people think that you are trying to like force a moral code of some sort on others. And oftentimes it's assumed that there's this moral code that's built on hate, where I just feel like there's a big disconnect between what others see as or assume my beliefs might be and what they actually are, especially towards it being accepting of others.
Yeah, I think that's a big point of tension as people of faith, is doing the proclamation of the gospel like in our everyday life. And as St. Francis, at least I think it was St. Francis that said this, proclaim the gospel always, and when necessary, use words. And I feel like Episcopalians in particular, we take that route of sharing the good news. We do it through our love and through our actions. And we are not one to say you're either with us or you're against us. We're much more about the yes and expanding the table, which creates tension with our siblings in different Christian denominations and also what others assume Christianity is. So yes, I resonate so much with what you said, Alex. And I think a lot of other people do too. Kelsey, what about you?
I think Alex had a lot of good things to say there that I would definitely echo. I think it's hard. Obviously, there's kind of been an infiltration of politics into the religious sphere, which I think as politics becomes more centered around what your values are, naturally, people's values are based in religion, so this makes sense. So I think it's then important, as you said, to really demonstrate the angle that the Episcopal Church is coming from through the way that you act out your values. I would say that I am maybe not met with so much tension by people that I talk to about being a Christian, but more wary curiosity is kind of how I would describe it.
Yeah.
They, kind of take a pause. As someone who is a queer person in a Christian space, I get a lot of confused people. They're fine with that. Like, it's okay that you're gay. I'm like, yeah, this is where we got to take a step back and do some education on what it means to be Episcopal. But yeah, I would say it's important to hook that curiosity that they have in a way that isn't, pushy or forcing a moral code, as Alex said, but in a way that's kind of like, yeah, this is what it means to be a Christian, and this does happen. This is a real thing. The way of love is real.
Yeah, so good. See, folks, this is why I love my job. I get to hear from brilliant, wonderful theological young minds. It's fantastic. Fantastic. Which brings me to a point of tension and challenge that we might have and experience as Christians, particularly young adults. Have you ever felt like you had to defend your faith or distance yourself from it in public or online? Because people like to troll.
I felt like sometimes it's been more difficult to confidently stand by the broad Christian term, mainly because of hateful and destructive things that you see being done in our country under or supposedly in the name of God. So I've always felt very confident in my Episcopalian beliefs and labeling myself as an Episcopalian. But there have certainly been times that I feel a little uncomfortable, or I have in the past felt uncomfortable openly proclaiming myself as a Christian just because of how I feel like that label has been attached to other things.
Preach. I think it's like, I love that you said that. It's easier to identify as an Episcopalian than it is a Christian, because I think at least the majority of Episcopalians that I encounter, that's how they refer to themselves. Like when someone asks them, hey, what is your religious or non-religious identity? And they're known Episcopalians, they'll say, oh, I'm Episcopal. They won't lead with, oh, I'm a Christian in the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement, as the former presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church said. So yes, it's yes. But it's also like, how do we work on that? How do we change the narrative a little bit and make people who are Episcopal feel a little bit more comfortable identifying as Christian first and Episcopal second, if that makes sense. Kelsey, what about you?
I think that a lot of what Alex has to say are feelings that I share, but I think I kind of have taken a different approach when I've been met with this, because I have so aggressively not wanted to like distance myself from that terminology. Like it just feels like I don't want to have to be doing that. But that also means that in response, I'm doing a lot more defending of kind of, like my own beliefs, that sort of thing. And oddly enough, doing a lot of defending to other people who identify as Christian. Maybe on the defense isn't quite the right term, but definitely in discussion with and sometimes combative discussion. But I think that it is hard to strike a balance, and that identifying as Episcopalian carries less of a immediate connotation as identifying as Christian does, compared to that. But I think that those kinds of discussions, even if for a while it is maybe kind of in this tense area, are ultimately what, leads to growth for everybody involved. I think they're super, super important. So I think that's why I shy away from the distance side of things and I go more towards the defend side, because I want to have those discussions and I want to understand where other people are coming from, because that helps me reinforce my own values, my own thoughts, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The investment of time and relationship in another is what helps us grow as individuals, but also I would even dare and say, like, become more faithful. Which is a stubbornly hopeful thing to do, right? But also, like, as young adults, hopefully we're hopeful people, because our lives are just starting, so to speak, putting that in quotes. What hopes do you have for the future of the Episcopal Church? And go. Alex, why don't we start with you?
One hope I have is that the Episcopal Church will grow and keep gaining youth. The hope I have is that my dream, I should say, is that I could tell someone that I'm an Episcopalian and the majority of people would know what that is. Because most of the time, I tell someone I'm a Christian and then I'm an Episcopalian, and they're like, "Oh, I've never heard of that before," or they'll ask, "Oh, so are you Catholic then?" So there are Episcopal churches everywhere, I can go to like any city and find one or more Episcopal churches. So I would just hope that we can continue to grow and, keep gaining youth.
Yeah. Same friend. Same. Kelsey, what about you?
Definitely a growth in numbers, not to look at it from like an analytical perspective, but like, I think the numbers are an important part, and I don't want them to dwindle. But I also think that my kind of dream would be that more, I don't think it really matters what age you are, but more people find the same kind of connection that I found in my young years within the church. Yeah, I think, I was like educated in a way through my church, kind of like additionally to school. Like I learned a lot about the world from it. And I would hope that a lot of other people come to have that experience through the Episcopal Church.
Yeah. This is going to sound terrible, but I've been involved in youth ministry for 12 years, but I never made the deep connection that our faith helps us understand the world around us, which is kind of ridiculous that I've never thought about that. I've always thought about it as, our faith is what channels the why for what we do in the world around us, but not helping us understand the world around us. I did hear you correctly on that, right?
Okay, you did. Yeah, sure. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah, like, see, you learn something new in conversation all the time. So we're talking about the future. We're talking about hope, sometimes being stubbornly hopeful. Where do you all see yourselves and your faith in particular going in the next 5 to 10 years? And it's okay if you don't have a specific idea.
I'm hopefully in Kansas City and still involved with my home parish. But I've been much more involved with the Diocese of Kansas now than I was ever involved with West Missouri on the diocesan level. And I don't want to just like go away and be like, okay, see you guys. I don't know really what that means, but I want to keep my friends in Kansas and still go to the church I've gone to all my life in Missouri.
Hey, that's the perfect Episcopal answer. It's the yes and.
Yeah.
It's the yes and, which I think is brilliant and beautiful. Kelsey, what about you?
I would say stay tuned. I think everyone's faith journey is like a continuous process, always and forever. I don't think that the Episcopal part is going anywhere for me. I think that's here to stay for good. That's my current stance, at least. But yeah, in terms of, I'll be here at Canterbury for another year, and then after that, I have no idea where I'll be, but God will be with me. Can always count on that.
Amen. So before we wrap up this episode, I'm going to do some rapid fire questions for you, and hopefully they won't be too scary for you. Okay. So we'll start out with Alex and then Kelsey respond, and then I'll go to the next question. First question: high church or low church?
High church.
Also high church.
Favorite part of the liturgy?
Also the gospel. And we're 2 for 2.
Okay. 3, scripture, tradition, or reason. Pick one.
Reason.
Alex, you can't keep taking my answers. Also reason.
Vestment color you vibe with most.
No cats.
Purple. Okay.
Oh, baby. I'm tried and true green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Love a good ordinary time. Would you rather Easter Vigil or Christmas Eve service?
Easter Vigil.
Christmas Eve.
Love the diversity of thought. And then finally, church potluck must have.
Funeral potatoes.
Funeral potatoes. Okay. I don't know what that is. Can you tell me?
It's like shredded potatoes that are like cheesy and then they have cornflakes on top. Funeral potatoes might not be the most correct way of saying. There might be a nicer way to say that.
Hey, it's an honest, authentic answer. Kelsey, what about you? Church potluck must have.
I would say somebody's grandma's chili or soup or mac and cheese recipe.
Ooh.
One of those has got to be there. And it's got to be one that's, been in the family.
Okay, oddly specific. Must be a family recipe. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the podcast. I adore my time with you and hearing your stories and just your theological rationale. It's so good. All right, friends, stay tuned for more episodes of All Things Episcopal and our new segment, Holy and Human, Stories from Young Adults in the Pews. Be well. Hey, friends. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about All Things Episcopal on the Diocese of West Missouri's communication pages, please visit diowest.org/podcasts/. And in the Diocese of Kansas, please visit edokformation.wordpress.com/All Things Episcopal Podcast. All Things Episcopal Podcast is a production of the Diocese of West Missouri and the Diocese of Kansas, in association with Resonant Media.